The silent Galaxy Admiral Crix Vorthok stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Nexari dreadnought Eternal Glory, staring out at the empty space where Terra Station once orbited. 25 years had passed since the Great Purge, and still, the silence of human space felt wrong to him. His 4 arms moved restlessly across the control surfaces, his scaled skin shifting from blue to deep purple with unease. "Sir, we're detecting anomalous energy signatures from Sector 7, reported. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Zon. The young Nexari's head tentacles twitched nervously. "It appears to be coming from an old human research facility." Crix's large black eyes focused on the display. During the war, he had been just a junior officer, barely understanding the scope of what the Galactic Alliance was planning. 12 species had united for one purpose: the complete elimination of humanity from the galaxy. The humans had spread too far, too fast. In just 3 centuries, they had colonized over 400 worlds, their population exploding across the stars like a virus. "Take us closer," Crix ordered. His ship moved through the debris field that had once been humanity's greatest achievement. Terra Station had been their capital, a massive structure housing 12 million humans. Now only twisted metal and frozen atmosphere remained. The bioweapon had been perfect. Designed by the greatest minds of the Alliance, it targeted human DNA specifically. Within days of its release, every human in the galaxy had simply stopped breathing, clean, efficient, final. The Alliance called it the Great Cleansing. History would remember it as necessary. "Sir, the energy signature is definitely artificial," Zon reported. "The facility appears to be ... active." Crix felt his blood chill. Active meant power systems. Power systems meant someone was operating them, but that was impossible. The bioweapon had been tested thoroughly. Every human genetic marker had been targeted. Not one member of their species should have survived. "Launch a reconnaissance probe," he ordered. Full spectrum analysis. As the probe streaked toward the hidden facility, Crix remembered the debates in the Alliance Council 25 years ago. The Corvani representatives had argued for simple conquest and slavery. The Deck had wanted to relocate humans to reservation worlds, but High Chancellor Vex of the Nexari Empire had convinced them all that half measures would not work. "Humans are unlike any species we have encountered," Vex had declared to the assembled delegates. "They adapt too quickly, learn too fast. In the time it would take us to establish proper control, they would find ways to resist, to evolve, to become something we cannot predict. The only safe solution is complete elimination." The other species had agreed. The Zelthari provided their biological expertise. The Morphic contributed their stealth technology. The Jagani offered their manufacturing capabilities. 12 species working together to solve the human problem once and for all. "Probe is approaching the target," Zon announced. "Facility appears to be designated Research Station Prometheus. Records show it was a deep space genetics laboratory, officially listed as destroyed during the Purge." Crix watched the probe's video feed. The station was small compared to human colonies, barely 3 kilometers long, but it was clearly operational. Lights flickered along its hull. Sensor arrays rotated slowly. Most disturbing of all, its hull showed no signs of the bioweapon's characteristic molecular decay. This station had been protected somehow. "Sir, I'm reading massive power consumption from the station's central core," Zon reported, his voice growing more worried. "Whatever they're doing in there, it's using enough energy to power a small city." The probe's sensors penetrated deeper into the station. Level by level, the facility revealed its secrets. Laboratories filled with advanced equipment, computer cores running complex calculations, and then, in the station's heart, something that made Crix's scaled skin crawl with fear. Life signs, Zon whispered. Thousands of them. The probe's feed showed chamber after chamber filled with cylindrical pods. Each pod contained a human form, suspended in some kind of preservation fluid. Row upon row of sleeping humans stretched. Through multiple levels of the facility, the display counted them automatically. 50,000 life signs, all human, all very much alive. This is impossible, Crix said, his voice barely controlled. The bioweapon was perfect. We tested it on captured human populations. No immunity was possible. But even as he spoke, he remembered the reports from the final days of the purge. Strange transmissions from the outer colonies, emergency broadcasts cut short, ships launching toward deep space and then vanishing from all sensors. At the time, the Alliance had assumed these were desperate escape attempts that had failed in the empty void between stars. Sir, the station's computers are responding to our probe, Zon reported. Someone is trying to establish communication. The main display flickered and then cleared to show a face that Crix recognized from the war records. Dr. Elena Buscus, one of humanity's leading She had been reported dead when the bioweapon hit the research colonies. Yet here, she was very much alive, though something about her appearance seemed different. Her eyes were too bright, her movements too precise. Her skin had an almost luminous quality. "Greetings, Admiral Vorthok," she said in perfect Nexari dialect. "I've been waiting for someone to find us." Crix felt his heart racing. How did she know his name? How had she learned his language so perfectly? "You should be dead," he managed to say. "We were," Elena replied calmly. "Your bioweapon was indeed perfect. It killed every human in the galaxy exactly as designed. Every human except the 50,000 we had prepared for what was coming." "Prepared how?" Crix demanded. Elena smiled, and Crix noticed her teeth seemed sharper than he remembered from human physiology reports. "We saw the Alliance forming. We knew what you were planning. So we began our own project. We called it Phoenix, after an Earth legend about a bird that dies and is reborn from its own ashes." The display changed to show technical diagrams that made Crix's head spin. Genetic modifications, cellular restructuring, DNA resequencing on a scale that seemed impossible even with human technology. "We couldn't prevent the bioweapon," Elena continued, "but we could prepare for it. The 50,000 volunteers underwent complete genetic reconstruction. We changed ourselves just enough to survive your weapon while maintaining our essential humanity. Then we went to sleep, waiting for our bodies to fully adapt to the changes." "For 25 years, Crix asked. "Transformation takes time," Elena said. "But we're awake now, all of us, and we remember everything that was done to our species." Crix felt a chill run through his scaled body. "What do you want?" Elena's smile grew wider, and her eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. "Justice, Admiral. Your Alliance killed 4 billion humans, every man, woman, and child of our species, erased from existence, because you were afraid of what we might become. You succeeded in killing who we were. But in the process, you created something you should fear far more." The display switched to show the interior of the station. Humans were emerging from their pods, but these were not the same creatures that had spread across the galaxy centuries ago. They moved with predatory grace, Their enhanced bodies rippled with new muscle structures. Their eyes held an intelligence that seemed almost alien in its intensity. "We are no longer the humans you destroyed," Alina said. "We are what humanity needed to become to survive your genocide. We are faster, stronger, smarter, and much harder to kill than our predecessors. Most importantly, we remember every world. You silenced every life you extinguished, every child you murdered in their sleep. The Alliance Council will never negotiate with terrorists," Crix said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Negotiate?" Alina laughed, and the sound sent shivers through every Nexari on the bridge. "Admiral, we're not here to negotiate. We're here to collect what you owe us. 4 billion lives demand payment." The probe's feed showed more humans awakening throughout the station. They moved with purpose, preparing equipment, checking weapons, systems that seemed far more advanced than anything humans had possessed before the Purge. "You have 48 hours to evacuate all Nexari civilians from your border worlds," Alina continued. "After that, we begin our work. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you try to erase a species from existence." "You're talking about war," Crix said. "No, Admiral," Alina replied, her voice cold as space itself. "War suggests two sides fighting for victory. This is extermination. Your alliance wanted us gone because you feared we would spread and adapt, and become something you couldn't control. You were right to fear that, but your mistake was not finishing the job completely." The transmission began to fade, but Elena's final words came through clearly. "We are the last humans in the galaxy. We are also the first of something new, and we're coming home." The probe's feed went dark. Crix stood in the silence of his command deck, staring at the empty display. Around him, his crew waited for orders, but he had none to give. How do you fight an enemy that your own weapons made stronger? How do you defeat a species that had already died once and returned as something worse? Asterisk. Sir Zon asked quietly, "What are your orders?" Crix looked out at the empty space where humanity had once thrived. 25 years ago, the Alliance had congratulated itself on solving the human problem. They had eliminated a dangerous species before it could threaten galactic stability. They had acted decisively, efficiently, completely. They had been wrong about the efficiency. And now, the galaxy was about to learn the price of incomplete genocide. The humans were coming back, but they would not be returning as the curious explorers who had left Earth centuries ago. They were returning as something the Alliance had created through fear and hatred and the ultimate act of species murder. Crix gave the only order he could: set course for Nexari Prime, maximum speed. We need to warn the Alliance Council. But even as he spoke, he knew it was already too late. The last humans were awake, and they remembered everything. Asterisk, the awakening. Alina Vasquez stepped out of her stasis pod and felt the cold metal floor beneath her feet. 25 years of sleep had ended, but her body felt more alive than it ever had before. The genetic modifications had worked perfectly. Around her, 49,999 other humans were awakening to a galaxy that thought their species was extinct. "Status report, Aria," she said to the station's artificial intelligence. "All Phoenix subjects have successfully completed the transformation process." Aria responded in its calm, mechanical voice. "Enhanced cellular structure is stable. Improved neural pathways are functioning at peak efficiency. Physical capabilities have increased by an average of 400% across all metrics." Alina walked to the main viewing window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among those distant lights were the worlds where her people had lived, loved, and died. The Alliance had been thorough in their genocide. Every human colony, every space station, every research outpost had been hit simultaneously with the bioweapon. 4 billion souls snuffed out in a matter of days. But they had missed Station Prometheus. Hidden in the dark space between star systems, shielded by technology the Alliance had never imagined humans possessed. The 50,000 volunteers had been the best and brightest of their species. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, doctors, teachers. Each one had willingly undergone the Phoenix process, allowing their DNA to be rewritten at the cellular level. Alina, a familiar voice called from behind her. She turned to see Commander Jake Morrison approaching. The former military officer had been among the first to volunteer for the project. His transformation was immediately visible. His frame was broader, his movements more fluid, his eyes held a sharpness that seemed almost predatory. "Jake," she smiled, "how are you feeling?" "Like I could tear apart an Xari dreadnought with my bare hands," he replied, flexing fingers that she knew could now crush steel. The modifications worked better than we hoped. Around them, other humans were emerging from the awakening chambers. Dr. Sarah Chen, the project's lead geneticist, was examining her own enhanced physiology with wonder. Professor Mikhail Santos, their former historian, was accessing the stations, records with mental speed that would have been impossible for an unmodified human brain. Captain Lisa Park was testing her new reflexes, moving faster than the eye could follow. "Arya, show me the final count," Alina requested. The holographic display materialized, showing the complete roster of survivors. 50,000 names, each representing humanity's last hope for survival and justice. But these were no longer the same humans who had volunteered for the project decades ago. The Phoenix process had changed them into something new, something the Alliance could never have anticipated. "The modifications have exceeded all projections," Dr. Chen reported, studying the biological readings. Enhanced muscle density, reinforced bone structure, improved cardiovascular efficiency, accelerated healing, extended lifespan, and most importantly, complete immunity to the Alliance bioweapon. Alina nodded. They had known the risks when they began the project. Changing human DNA so drastically could have resulted in death or madness for all the volunteers. Instead, it had created something remarkable, humans who retained their essential nature while gaining capabilities that bordered on the superhuman. "What's our tactical situation?" Jake asked. "Arya, display current galactic political structure," Alina commanded. The hologram shifted to show the galaxy as it existed now. 25 years after the Great Purge, the 12 Alliance species had divided up human space among themselves. Former human colonies now flew alien flags. The Nexari Empire had claimed the richest systems. The Corvani Federation had taken the agricultural worlds. The Zelfari Collective had absorbed the research stations. "They've grown comfortable," Professor Santos observed. 25 years of peace have made them soft. They believe the human threat is permanently eliminated. "They're about to learn otherwise," Captain Park said, her voice carrying a cold edge that hadn't been there before the transformation. Alina accessed the station's tactical systems. The Phoenix project had included more than just genetic modification. During their long sleep, automated systems had been constructing new weapons, new ships, new technologies based on enhanced human intelligence and alien science they had secretly acquired before the Purge. "Show them the fleet," she said. The external cameras revealed the truth that the Nexori probe had missed. Hidden in the asteroid field around Station Prometheus were dozens of ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were sleek, organic vessels that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. Each one was grown rather than built, using biotechnology that merged human innovation with genetic engineering. The Reaper-class destroyers are ready for deployment, Arya reported. Each vessel can operate with a crew of just 50 enhanced humans. Their hulls are composed of self-repairing biological armor. Their weapons systems use directed evolution technology to adapt to enemy defenses in real time. Jake whistled softly. We're actually going to do this. We're going to take on the entire galaxy. Not the entire galaxy, Alina corrected. Just the 12 species that chose to murder our people. The others were neutral, and neutrality has its own price, but genocide demands a specific response. Dr. Chen was reviewing the psychological profiles of the awakened humans. The modification process has had some interesting effects on our emotional responses. Enhanced aggression, improved tactical thinking, reduced empathy for those we identify. As enemies, we're still human, but we're humans designed for war. Alina felt the truth of that statement in her own mind. She remembered her former life, a peaceful researcher dedicated to improving human health and longevity. That woman still existed within her, but she was now combined with something harder, colder, more focused. The Phoenix process had taken their grief over humanity's destruction and forged it into something sharp and deadly. What about the other species? Asked Dr. Maria Rodriguez, their former diplomat. Some of the Alliance members had populations in the trillions. Even with our enhancements, we're still just 50,000. Numbers were never humanity's greatest strength, Alina replied. We survived on Earth not because we were the strongest or fastest, but because we could adapt, innovate, and work together better than any other species. The Phoenix modifications have enhanced those capabilities far beyond what any alien race possesses. She activated the tactical display, showing detailed intelligence on each Alliance species. The Nexori rely on their numerical superiority and conventional tactics. The Corvani depend on their industrial capacity. The Zelthari trust in their biotechnology. All of them think in terms of traditional warfare, fleets meeting in space, armies conquering planets, negotiations for surrender, asterisk. And we think differently, Jake realized. We think like humans, Alina confirmed. We improvise. We exploit weaknesses our enemies don't even know they have. We turn their own strengths against them, and most importantly, we never stop adapting. The awakening process was complete throughout the station. 50,000 enhanced humans were now active, each one a weapon designed specifically to survive and overcome the greatest threat their species had ever faced. They were scientists who could develop new technologies in days rather than years. They were soldiers who could outfight any alien warrior. They were strategists who could think dozens of moves ahead of their opponents. Arya, open a channel to the Alliance monitoring stations, Alina commanded. Channel open, the AI responded. Elena's image was broadcast across the galaxy, reaching every major government and military installation. She stood in the center of Station Prometheus, surrounded by her awakened people, and spoke in a voice that carried across the stars. People of the galaxy, she began. 25 years ago, 12 species formed an alliance to eliminate humanity from existence. You succeeded in killing 4 billion innocent people, men, women, children, who had never threatened you, never harmed you, never done anything except exist in a universe you wanted to claim for yourselves. The transmission continued, reaching worlds across the galaxy. On Nexari Prime, the Empire's capital, emergency sessions were being called. On Corvani Central, military commanders were scrambling to assess this impossible threat. On every Alliance world, the message was being heard by beings who had thought the human problem was solved forever. You destroyed our colonies, murdered our families, and celebrated the extinction of our species, Alina continued. You justified this genocide by claiming we were dangerous, that we spread too quickly, that we might one day threaten your civilizations. You were afraid of what humanity might become if left unchecked. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in across the galaxy. Your fears were justified, but your solution was incomplete. You killed the humans who might have been content to share the galaxy with you peacefully. Instead, you created something new, humans who know exactly what you are capable of. Humans who have been forged by your cruelty into something you should fear far more than you ever feared our ancestors. Around her, the enhanced humans began, moving with purpose, preparing for the war that was about to begin. Ships powered up, weapons came online, tactical systems began calculating strike patterns across the galaxy. We are the last humans, Alina declared. We are also the first of something new. We remember every world you silenced, every life you stole, every child you killed, and we are coming to collect what you owe us. The transmission ended, but its effects rippled across the galaxy. The Alliance species scrambled to mobilize their fleets, but they were preparing for the wrong kind of war. They expected human tactics, human limitations, human weaknesses. Instead, they would face something unprecedented, a species that had died and been reborn as their own perfect nemesis. In the depths of Station Prometheus, 50,000 enhanced humans prepared for the greatest war in galactic history. They were outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1, but they carried with them the accumulated grief and rage of an entire species. More importantly, they carried something their enemies had forgotten, the human capacity to become whatever survival demanded. The Phoenix had risen from the ashes of genocide, and the galaxy was about to learn why some species should never be pushed to extinction. Asterisk.